Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing an Amazoness deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck is really cool because it summons Amazoness Emperor and her pet, Amazoness Pet Liger, which are really amazing boss monsters for the deck, and they combo super well. And basically the deck is like a sword deck that you're basically just going to keep swinging at your opponent until you win, which is really awesome. It's a beatdown deck. So I really quickly have a guessing game for you guys. Tell me down below who actually were the 4 people that played this deck in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh series, and I definitely will give you a heart. But without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description because we have some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting a signed card sent to you in the mail, getting your name in the description of every single video, or even getting a requested deck profile just like this one in the every single month that you are a patron. So let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Amazoness Princess. Basically, when she is normal summoned, or when she's on the field, you get to treat her as an Amazoness Queen, which is really cool. And then when this card is on the field or in the graveyard, she has that ability. And this card is normal or special summon. You get to add a Amazoness spell or trap directly from your deck to your hand. And you can only use the effect of Amazoness Princess once per turn. And then when this card declares an attack, you can send a card from your hand to the graveyard, hand or field to the graveyard to special summon an Amazoness monster from your deck, except another copy of herself, which is really cool because you're usually going to summon your copy of Amazoness Queen because it makes it so none of your Amazoness monsters can be destroyed in battle. And she's 2400 attack, which helps out as another beat stick, which is awesome. Then we play 3 copies of Amazoness Swordwoman because Amazoness Swordwoman benefits off of that ability of not being able to be destroyed by battle because she makes it so your opponent takes all the battle damage that you would have taken from the battles that she's involved in. So like if she attacks into a monster that has 5,000 attack, your opponent's going to take 3,500 damage, which is really funny. And she doesn't get destroyed by battle if you have Queen. Then we play 3 copies of Amazoness Spy, which she can special summon herself from the hand by revealing an Amazoness monster in your hand. And she also has the ability that when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target one Amazoness monster in your graveyard except another copy of herself and return to the hand or shuffle it into the deck. Usually you're going to add it to the hand, you're not going to shuffle in deck because you're going to want to use the you're going to want to get it back in the hand for like copies of your Amazoness Princess or Amazoness Swordwoman to be able to get them back in your hand to reuse them. We play a single copy of Amazoness Sage. Amazoness Sage, when she's involved in a battle, she lets you target a spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it, which is really helpful to be able to pop with something with like as an MST-ish effect. And then we play 2 copies of Amazoness Tiger. Amazoness Tiger is one of my favorite cards in the entire deck because it lets you, this card gains 400 attack for each Amazoness monster you control, and your opponent cannot attack any face-up Amazoness monster except for this one. So, it's really, really helpful because it already comes out at 1500 because it counts as an Amazoness monster, but if you have all 5 or all 6 on the field, it gains 4, 8, 12, 16, all the way up to 2400, which is really cool right out the bat. And it can go up basically to 3000, 3,500 if you have all the slots filled, which is really, really, really cool. I like that ability of having that extra of 2400 attack that this card can gain, and it just comes in really handy. Then we play 2 more Amazoness Tigers, but this time they're babies. An Amazoness Baby Pet Tiger has the ability this card becomes Pet Tiger while in the field or in the graveyard, and if an Amazoness monster is normal or special summoned to your field while this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card, and you can only use the effect of Baby Pet Tiger once per turn. But being able to get those monsters out on the field is super helpful to get you into link plays like Mrs. Radiant or stuff like that to be able to get you more plays off. We play 3 copies of Ash Blossom just to stop our opponent from doing all sorts of stuff, and 2 copies of Nibiru because the Nibiru's super help out with being able to board wipe your opponent to go in for an OTK, and this card comes in super handy, especially if you Nibiru your opponent and then go into a copy of like Princess just declares an attack, and then you special summon a monster, and then you got Nibiru and a Queen on your side of the field, and you got a lot of damage right there. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Call by the Grave just so you can stop your opponent from doing all sorts of hand traps and stuff like that. It just comes in really handy to banish those hand traps. We play a single copy of Rhoda because Rhoda lets us add literally any of our monsters from our deck to our hand except for the Tigers or Nibiru or Ash. You can add any of your Amazoness monsters though. One copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial helps us out a lot because you have ways of like sending your copies of Baby Pet Tiger to the graveyard to be able to special summon it, and Foolish Burial helps us out a lot in that aspect. One copy of Terraforming, because Terraforming is going to let us add our copy of Amazon's Village from our deck to our hand, which is going to help us out with a lot of different plays. And then we play 3 copies of Polymerization. The 3 Polymerizations help us get into our copies of Amazoness Empress or Amazoness Pet Liger, which is going to help us out a lot to get into those monsters, because they're basically the big boss monsters of the deck. We then play 3 copies of Amazoness Call. Amazoness Call is really cool because she lets you target one Amazoness card in your deck, or take an Amazoness card from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard, and during your main phase you can banish it from your graveyard and then target an Amazoness monster you control. This turn, that monster can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and also other monsters you control cannot attack. That's really neat if your opponent has a monsters that are really big, and you have Queen and your copy of what's her name, Swordswoman on your side of the field, because your opponent's going to be taking so much damage. Flex Save Annie is going to fix it. Then we're going to be playing 3 copies of Amazoness Village. Amazoness Village is the last spell that we play in the deck because it makes all your Amazoness monsters gain 200 attack, and then once per turn when an Amazoness monster is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon the Amazoness monster from your deck with a level less than or equal to the destroyed Amazoness monster. So if your Swordswoman gets destroyed, you can special summon your Princess. If Princess gets destroyed, you can special summon Sage. If Sage gets destroyed, you can summon Baby Pet Tiger. You have a lot of different ways that you can climb down the ladder, but make sure that when you're using this card, you go from 4 to 3, and then 3 to 3 if you can go to 3 to 3, or go from 4 to 4, but don't climb down unless you have to. That's something that you need to keep in mind, or if you need to get to a particular monster. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps, because we do actually play 3 traps in here, and they are insanely good. And that is 3 copies of Amazoness Onslaught. Amazoness Onslaught is really a crazy good trap card, because what it does is once per turn during your battle phase, you can special summon an Amazoness monster from your hand. And if you do, it gains 500 attack until the end phase of the turn. Even this card leaves the field, which can be Amazoness Queen. And after damage calculation, if your Amazoness monster battled an opponent's monster, while this card is already face up on your spell and trap card zone, you can banish that opponent's monster. And if this card is on the field, is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target an Amazoness monster in your grave and special summon it. That is really, really good because it revives your copies of Amazoness Empress and your Pet Liger, which is really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing 2 copies of Amazoness Empress. Empress is crazy good because what she does is you have to fusion summon her using an Amazoness Queen and another Amazoness monster. We play plenty of them in the deck, and you have your Amazoness Princess, so it's really easy to go into. She's super easy to go into. And what she does is all other Amazoness cards you control cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. And if your Amazoness monster attacks defense position monster, you inflict piercing damage. And if this face-up fusion monster is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, while this card is in your control, you can special summon an Amazoness Queen from your hand, deck, or grave. So she's just an upgraded version of Amazoness Queen. And basically, she brings back Queen from anywhere, which is really good. 2 copies of Pet Liger. Pet Liger is really good because you just have to use a tiger and another Amazoness monster, and it has the effect of once per battle. If this card attacks during damage calculation, you can make this card gain 500 attack, and then during that damage calculation only. And if an Amazoness monster attacked an opponent's monster after damage calculation, you can target an Amazon face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses 800 attack. And monsters your opponent control cannot attack Amazoness monsters except for this one. That's really good because it gaining that extra attack points and it being able to attack and making it so your opponent can only attack this card protects all of your other Amazoness monsters, and some of them are kind of weak, so that kind of helps out. We play a single copy of Appaloosa because Appaloosa is really easy to go into in this deck. Boral Load and Boral Sword because they both come in their own right to be able to help. Either being able to take opponents' monsters or being able to swing over stuff really helps out. Nightmare Unicorn because you can bounce stuff off the field, which is really, really helpful sometimes. Phoenix because Phoenix pops spells and traps. And then 2 copies of Mrs. Radiance. So the Mrs. Radiance are a really neat addition to this deck because they are super easy to go into with your Baby Pet Tiger. And they increase all of your Amazoness monsters by 500 attack. Because basically what you're trying to do is get your Amazoness Queen out on the field, or Empress and Liger, and then be able to OTK your opponent with those two monsters, and Mrs. Radiant on your side of the field, so you can just basically have them gain so much attack. It's ridiculous. I thought about dropping United We Stand in here as well, because I thought United We Stand might be an interesting addition to the deck, because of how many monsters actually get special summoned out of this deck. Then we play a single copy of Exciton Knight, just in case you need to board wipe. Phantom Knight of Breaksword, just to be able to pop stuff, and a single copy of number 47, Nightmare Shark, to be able to attack your opponent directly, and Super Quantum Mech Beast Grand Pulse, just to be able to pop spells and traps. It really helps out because basically you can pop spells and traps. It's basically walking MST, and your Sage special summons, or not Sage, Spy special summons herself from hand, and it's really easy to get two of them on the field, or Princess and her on your side of the field, which really comes in handy. So that's it for the deck, guys. It's pretty simplistic. It's basically a beatdown deck that you summon a bunch of Amazonesses and give it to your opponent, which is hilarious. So that's it for the deck, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this deck. It's a super fun deck to play around with, and it's relatively budget. I mean, as you can see, Appaloosa, but you don't have to play Appaloosa if you don't want to. But basically, as you can see, the two big boss monsters that you're going to be playing in the entire deck are commons, and the rest of the deck is pretty much common or super. The only expensive card I think in the entire deck is Baby Pet Tiger, and I think it was like $5 or $10 when I originally looked at it a while back. But that's been a little while since I actually looked at the card. But it's a really fun deck, and I highly recommend that you guys give this deck a try. But anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon, because it makes these deck profiles possible. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.